the stillness of the desert night, when the stars burned like silver, fireflies scattered across a vast ink-black canvas, and the earth seemed to hold its breath between whispers of wind, the cowboy rode alone with only the creak of leather and the slow, tired snort of his horse to remind him he was not yet swallowed entirely by the silence. And though his hat brim hung low enough to shadow his eyes, nothing could hide the restless storm that lived behind them, for he had wandered long roads of dust and blood, places where the sun scorched men into shadows of themselves, and where whiskey blurred the line between regret and survival. And he thought this night would be like any other, just another stretch of sand and memory, until he saw her, a solitary figure standing against the moonlight like a secret, pulled from an old legend, her dress dark but alive in the wind, her hair a wild banner of night, her eyes two embers that caught him before he could look away. And when her voice came, it sliced through the emptiness with the weight of both challenge and invitation. "Cowboy, do you fear me or desire me?" she asked, her words trembling, not with weakness but with the strength of someone who knows. The desert carries truths that cannot be buried. And he reined in his horse, staring at her as if she were a mirage conjured by thirst and loneliness. For no woman should have been out here alone, not where coyotes hunted in packs and outlaws carved their names in blood across forgotten canyons. Yet there she stood, fearless, her gaze refusing to bow, and in that instant he felt the pull of something larger than himself, the tug of fate wrapped in mystery. For her question was not only about him but about the secrets she carried and the darkness he tried to escape. And he remembered the stories told in hushed tones back in the saloons, about a woman who walked the desert at night, a woman who did not belong to any man, who belonged to no grave, who spoke to the lost and demanded they answer with the truth of their souls. And though some called her witch, some angel, some devil, the cowboy now knew those stories were not just dust-bitten lies. They were standing before him, alive and unyielding. And he had no choice but to answer not with his mouth but with his silence, because silence was safer. Silence was the shield of men who had too much to confess. Yet even as he tried to keep his guard, the desert betrayed him, for the wind swirled around them like a living thing, carrying his heartbeat into the open night. And she smiled, a smile both knowing and dangerous, a smile that could crack stone. And she stepped closer, her boots stirring the sand with the weight of centuries, and the cowboy found himself dismounting, his boots sinking deep, his hand resting near the worn grip of his revolver, not out of intent, but out of habit. For danger wore many faces, and often the most beautiful ones hid the sharpest edges, and she stopped just a breath away, close enough that he could see the scars at the edge of her jaw, faint but real, the kind earned not from softness, but from battles fought where mercy had no home. And he realized then that whatever she was not here by accident. And whatever she wanted, it was bound to him, perhaps had been bound long before his birth. And so the night unfolded, long and winding, filled with questions she asked and silences he offered, filled with shadows that danced along the horizon as if the desert itself leaned in to listen. And she told him pieces of her story, not in a straight line, but in fragments like shards of a shattered mirror, of betrayal by men who promised love and delivered chains, of nights when she buried her dead with her own hands, of bargains struck with spirits older than the land itself. And he listened, caught not only by her voice, but by the haunting truth that much of her pain echoed his own, for he too had known betrayal, he too had buried, he too had bargained with devils in the shape of men. And as the hours passed, the distance between them shrank, not measured in steps, but in the soft tearing down of walls they had each built high and merciless. And still her question lingered like smoke. "Do you fear me or desire me?" And he did not yet know the answer, because both burned equally strong within him. And perhaps that was the power she held, to force him into the honesty he had long denied. And as dawn's first light began to stretch over the sand, painting the desert gold and crimson, the cowboy understood that this meeting was not chance, that he had written into a story larger than the law, larger than revenge, larger even than love. A story that would test not only his courage, but his very soul. For the woman before him was not a ghost to fear or a flame to desire. She was both, and in her presence he would either be remade or destroyed. And as he saddled his horse again, ready to ride with her into whatever trials awaited beyond the horizon, he looked back one last time at the path behind him, at the long trail of mistakes and regrets, and he felt something unfamiliar stir within him. Not quite hope, but not despair either. Something raw and unshaped, and she, watching him, simply whispered, "The desert always chooses who it keeps, Cowboy. Now it has chosen you." And with that, the first chapter of their journey together began, carved into the rising sun, destined to lead them into darkness, fire and revelation, and if you, listening to this tale beneath the same endless sky, feel the pull of their story, then ride with us further. Do not let the trail end here. Subscribe and follow so you do not miss the next chapter.